Hey, Miles here, milesbeckler.com. In this video, you're going to learn about real estate investing. I'm going to share some of my past history, but the goal is to help you understand a few approaches to real estate investing that you can take with no money or very little amounts of money so you can kind of house hack your way into wealth. Now, investing is the third part of the kind of create wealth. It's a three-step process. Step one was you go earn money by offering services and scaling up. Step two is to go create a business so the business can earn income for you. Step three is investing. This is where you get your monies to go make money for you. Now, this is not passive. Real estate investing is far from passive. It takes a ton of energy, but it is a great way to grow your wealth. And people are big fans of real estate investing because you often get leverage, right? Like I can go take control of $1 million property with about $200,000 or less. When you put 20% down, generally you can get a bank to come up with the rest and you take control over 100% of the asset, but you're only putting in a percentage. And if you're a first-time home buyer, sometimes that number can get as low as 3.5% to 5%. But this video isn't all about buying homes. I want to show you some examples of how you can use renting homes and how you can actually go find homes for other investors to generate income, because that's where I started. So no matter where you're at right now, there is going to be a method you could implement if you want to kind of add on house hacking to your wealth creation process that you're going on right now. So let's jump right in. Now first, I'm in an Airbnb right now. I'm actually going out property hunting again today with a real estate agent. I am looking for an investment property myself, but Airbnb I think is kind of the gorilla in the room when it comes to real estate investing. Now I have a friend in Southern California who is renting properties, so he's going to obtain leases and then he goes in and furnishes the properties and leases them out nightly on Airbnb. It's a very simple arbitrage. He takes an annual lease of a property, he puts up his own money as the deposit in the first month, and then he puts his own money in to actually furnish the property, and he furnishes it nicely, and then he lists it on Airbnb nightly. Now he's focusing on houses and condos in the kind of greater Disneyland area, because a lot of families who travel to Disneyland, they want a kitchen, they want a couple of rooms, etc. It is an upgrade for a hotel room. So he is providing a service in that community where he goes, obtains and locks down the lease. He does notify the owner that he is going to be subleasing that property out. He sometimes has to pay a little bit more for that. He sometimes gets told no by the property managers themselves, but he's always liable on the hook for that annual lease. Then he furnishes the property and then he lists it on Airbnb and he makes the arbitrage in between. He now has over 20 properties that he's moving in this direction, and cash flow is good. It is a workable business model for him. There are some risks with this. One of the risks is if a community comes out and says, no more nightly rentals, 30-night minimums. Also, you need certain business licenses, this, that, the other. It's a very gray area. It's a very new area. So he's all in on something that's very unknown. And if the platform changes or if the communities he's in change their laws, he could be left holding the rope. You don't have to go that big or that deep or all into an Airbnb either. So if you are an individual, if you're a young individual, you have the ability to go simply rent a house in your area. You could rent a 4-bedroom house and you are able to lease out the other rooms in that house, so the other people in the house are actually paying for your lease. You could take the smallest room in the house if you want, charge more for the master, you rent out and get kind of roommates in for each of the individual other rooms. They all pay enough rent to cover the utilities and the rent itself. They pay that to you, you pay that directly to the landlord, and you have just house hacked your way into a free home, which is generally one of the largest expenses most of us have, is our housing costs. So that's one way of getting into it, with just locking down the lease. You play landlord on a very small scale. You don't need to own the asset to play landlord in that situation, and other people are essentially paying for your real estate, paying for you to be there. The next level above that is obviously to purchase a house, right? You purchase a house and you bring in roommates into that situation where you've purchased the house within, and then those people are essentially paying your mortgage instead of paying the landlord's mortgage. Then you get all the benefits we talked about before, but you're now growing equity. You're providing a service. You're getting rooms for people who are interested in your area. That's the service service that you provide. They get to live there. They are effectively paying your mortgage. They pay your mortgage, your interest, and everything. So for a little tiny bit of management, you're able to go a long way with getting kind of other people to pay your asset. One of the keys or kind of one of the known factors in real estate is the shorter duration that you're having occupancy, the more management. So an Airbnb with nightly management, with nightly rentals, is going to have more management than a monthly rental or than an annual rental. So really keep in mind your situation and how much free time you have available. The less free time you have available, the longer you're going to want to try to get someone in for monthly, yearly type leases, and you're going to know that you'll probably make less, right? So on a longer term lease, you're going to make less, but you're going to have lower management. On a shorter term lease, like a nightly Airbnb, you'll have the potential to earn more, but you'll have a lot more management. There's a lot more inquiries, emails, notes, things coming in from Airbnb, people requesting to book. Then there's all the cleaning that you have to do, the daily, nightly cleaning. Even if you're down every like 3 nights a minimum, 5 nights minimum, 7 nights minimum, there's a lot to do in that situation. So again, know thyself, know your situation, and make sure you're working within a model that works well with kind of your personal situation. And you might be thinking, Miles, I'm not going to do roommates, right? I got kids, I got a family, I got a wife, I'm beyond the roommate status in life. I totally get it. I'm there with you. I understand it. In this situation, you can get into a little bit different types of house hacking. One very common opportunity here is for people to obtain a triplex or a quadplex, which is 3 or 4 units on one deeded property. Now, what happens is I believe you can qualify on a traditional loan for up to a quadplex, which is 4 separate units. So a lot of people will go in, if you're a first-time home buyer, this is great. You can get in sometimes with 3.5% or 5% down, so you keep that down payment minimized. You find essentially a real estate opportunity that has 4 separate units, so it's got 4 separate addresses. You move into the smallest one. I'm going to kind of keep coming back to that because honestly, that's where you will maximize your cash flow. If you rent out the biggest, nicest, fanciest 3 units and you live in the smallest unit, these other 3 units will be able to pay for all of your living, your interest, your mortgage insurance, your everything, right? The whole kit and caboodle, your PITI, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And you might even have some left over at the end, meaning you are not only getting other people to pay off your asset for you, but you're generating positive cash flow. Now, I would keep that positive cash flow in a separate account because when you're the owner of a property, things happen like roofs start leaking, water heaters go out, and there are going to be expenses. A lot of people call this a CapEx account or some sort of just emergency fund for the property itself. So if and when something happens to the property, you have a fund, a bank account to go pull on to improve that, to make sure your tenants are staying happy because their roof's not leaking and their water heater works great and all the systems within the house continue to work perfectly. That is, again, the service that you're providing. So you're able to live in one of the triplex units, one of the quadplex units. You lease out the other ones as a landlord situation, put them on an annual lease, and you, my friend, have gotten yourself into a situation where other people are paying down your asset. But you might still be in this situation where you're like, Miles, I don't want to deal with tenants. I don't want to be a landlord, because being a landlord is absolutely a full-time job. So there's an opportunity to do this is kind of where my wife and I are going with our strategy. It's what I call slow flips. Now, in the United States, we have a law that says if you live in and you're owner occupied of a property for 2 of 5 years, when you sell that property, you will not pay capital gains tax. Okay, let me say that again. If you buy a property and you live in it for 2 of 5 years, when you sell said property, you do not pay capital gains tax on the growth in the asset value. So here's how you can operate within this slow flip model. You buy a house and you move into the house to become owner occupied. As you're living there through the course of 2 years, you improve the property. You redo the flooring, you put in a granite kitchen, you maybe blow out a wall between the dining room and the kitchen area to make it an open living experience. You work on the curb appeal, you do exterior paint, you do interior paint. You improve the house on weekends and as you have free time, and you make it a nicer, more valuable dwelling. Now, if you have handy skills, this is great. You can go apply your skills. If you don't, you can then earn your income through your online business and take a piece of that income to invest back in the property, always expecting to gain a return on said investment, and it would be a tax-free return on that investment. So what you're able to do is you take your 20% down payment, you move it into a property, you want to get into a nice neighborhood, and you want to find the ugliest house in a very nice neighborhood. That's when it works the best. And then you go improve that property, and preferably a smaller, uglier house, because smaller houses generally can get a higher per square foot value than the larger houses in the neighborhood. So you move in and you improve that. So all the houses around you, all the neighbors love you because you're improving the look and the feel and the value of your neighbors' properties. And as you improve that, then 2 years later, you have the potential to sell it. Now, if you bought it right, you spent very little, you bought low, you improved it, and you sell high, there's going to be a chunk of profit in there. Now, that profit is going to come back to you without taxes being removed, in addition to the down payment you've put in addition to all of the principal payments you've put in. So at the end of 2 years, you kind of get this lump of money back when you sell, and what do? You go do another 2-year flip. And then you put that into the next house, and it gives you the bank account to pull from to do all the fix-ups, and you kind of roll through properties every 2 years. And if you do this correctly, you can grow your real estate nest egg with every sale. Again, the trick is, in real estate, there's kind of this phrase, you make your money when you buy. So the trick is to find an undervalued property or a property that needs work, and you look at it and you have maybe the skills or the understanding or the subs, or you know people, you have family members who are contractors, who are handyman, etc., and you get bids before you buy, and you make sure the math works, right? You need to know, I'm buying this house at $120,000. If it was in really good condition, it would be worth $160,000, and I could put in 20 grand to get it to that 160 mark. This means you move in and you are essentially able to capture an extra 40 grand, 20 grand of profit in this situation by doing the work. Now, I don't want anyone to distract themselves from their internet business. That's not the goal of real estate investing. When I was in college doing the investing game, I was all in on investing. I thought that was my path to wealth, my path to success. But what I missed is there's a cash flow component missing, right? I didn't have steps 1 and 2 dialed in the wealth program. I wasn't able to apply my skill to earn income and cash flow to float myself. And I definitely didn't have a business running. I was simply doing investing without getting the cash flow in. I've seen a lot of cryptocurrency people doing this same sort of thing. You need to have a source of income to live your life, to pay your rent, to pay for your food, to pay for your web-based business, right? So you need to have that going. This is something to do on the side with your time. So the house hacking idea is something we just rolled through in the live in 1 unit, rent out 3 units of a triplex or a quadplex. If you buy a quadplex that needs to get fixed and flipped, you can live in 1 unit, fix it up, flip it, move to the 2nd unit, rent it out for more, getting more cash flow, improve the 2nd unit, move into the 3rd unit, rent out the 2nd unit to improve cash flow, and on, ultimately working your way through each of those units in a triplex or quadplex, improving all of them, which improves the rents on all of them, which improves the value of a rental property, because a landlord who would buy that from you wants to know how much rent it's producing, and if you can get each unit to improve in its rents by 10, 15, 20% by making each unit nicer, you, my friend, are able to add more value to the overall property, because that triplex now brings in 20% more rent than it did before you got your hands on it. Meanwhile, you're living in it for that 2-year period, and you can actually apply that slow flip methodology, getting cash flow on the side to a triplex or a quadplex. I hope that isn't too confusing. I've only got a couple of more ideas, and at this point, if any of these sound exciting or interesting or you want more info, be sure to leave me a comment. I might do a full series of videos going deeper into these ideas or deeper into the real estate world. Again, I've got years and years of experience, and I'm actively in this world again myself, so this is part of where my thoughts are and where I'm at. So let me know what you think of this in the comments if you're still with me, and give me any questions so I can potentially make future videos. 2 other really quick ideas of how you can work with investors. And this is how I approached the game when I was in college, because I had no money. I was borrowing money for life. I was living on student loans. I was living in the dorm. The real estate markets were in an absolute frenzy. This is 05, 06, 07. Everyone was becoming a real estate investor, and I was like, I'm a smart kid. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna to get it going. So I read online. BiggerPockets is a forum you can read online. Take everything you hear from people on forums with a grain of salt. They're going to try to encourage you to be more aggressive and more leveraged than you probably should be. But with that said, there's some really good ways and understanding of some methodologies through those forums. It takes a lot of reading. There's a podcast called The Real Estate Guys. They're pretty smart. They got their hearts in the right places. I don't buy any of the things that they recommend, but listening to them talk about kind of the game is a great way to get your mindset going. BiggerPockets also has a book about being a landlord. That's a really good book if you want an audiobook to listen to, because that's what I did when I first jumped into the world. I filled my head with the information. Didn't make sense at first, but it started to make more sense. And at some point, you're going to need to go meet, if you want to go down this investing path that we're getting to next, you're going to need to go meet the local real estate investors in your markets. Use Google. Go find the local real estate investing meetups. In my town I was in, which is Albuquerque, New Mexico, there were 2 of them. They each met once per month, and I just started showing up. Started meeting people. I started asking people if I could take them out to coffee to pick their brains. I let them know I wanted to kind of intern with them, and I learned out about 2 opportunities that I executed on successfully from just being around it. Number 1 is called bird dogging, and number 2 is called wholesaling or assigning contracts. So bird dogging, first and foremost, you are essentially the individual who goes out to find deals. Investors have money. Investors look at deals as opportunities to deploy their capital to improve the property and resell on the back end and make more money. So if you are the individual who connects a house with an investor and that investor buys it and does a deal, the investors will happily give you a kickback for bringing that deal to them. So that's you being a bird dog. 2 ways you can find deals. Number 1, I called it driving for dollars. I would literally ride my bike, walk, and drive through different neighborhoods that were desirable for local real estate investors. How did I know what neighborhoods they wanted to be in? I went to the meetings and I asked them, where would you like to buy properties? What price ranges do you want to buy properties in? I learned which investors wanted what size, shape, location for properties, and then I literally did the work. I would drive around on garbage day. A house that doesn't have its garbage cans out is obviously there's no one in that house. Now, are they gone for a week? Are they gone for a month? Is it a vacant house? There's ways to learn about that. And at your county courthouse or online at your county tax assessor's website, you can generally find out who is paying taxes on a property. So when you find a vacant house in a neighborhood that someone likes, and you're like, man, there might be a deal here, you can go through the tax records to find out who's paying taxes on that property. You can then send them a letter. I've tried handwritten letters. I've tried greeting cards. My greeting card system actually worked really well to get the attention because it was different. But at that point, you have to go build a relationship. You can get their name. You can look for them on Facebook. You can look for them on Twitter. You can look for them on LinkedIn, right? You just need to go do the work, and you establish a line of communication. You establish the fact that you work with a group of investors who are interested in doing deals in their neighborhood. You notice this property, it looks like it might be vacant. Would you ever consider selling the property? If they say yes, they're interested, then you can get them in touch with the investor. If they do a deal, you generally will get a kickback. This is probably gonna be the smallest kickback that you can get because you're not doing all that much work. The next level is assigning contracts or wholesaling. And this is where you actually negotiate the deal on the house yourself. You actually get a contract signed that says me or my assignee, this is the assigning a contract part, is able to purchase this house for $120,000, right? And you know through your research that this house is worth $180. So if you're buying it for $120, there's $60,000 in profit potential there. So you get that on a contract that says I can buy this house at $120,000 and I have the right to assign this contract to any one of my choice. You take your contract to the real estate investing meeting and then you essentially go sell that contract. And a real estate investor who's like, wow, you got a house in that neighborhood that's this size, that shape for $120? Boy, I'd be willing to pay up to $140 for that. And you're like, great. I will sell you this contract for $10,000. And they buy the contract. They buy the right for you to assign the contract to them for $10,000. You just made 10 grand for doing all of the legwork. They just got the right to buy the property. And at that point, they can execute on the contract and purchase the property, and they can execute the flip themselves. Now, I took this on a very wide kind of variety of ideas, starting with rentals and Airbnbs and simple things that anyone can do, because we all live in a home generally. I know there's at least one of you living on a boat, and I'm guessing I got some van life folks on here, so, with a grain of salt, but most people live in a house, right? And there are ways to structure how you're living and where you're living with a bit of work to really get other people and leverage other people to pay for your assets, to help you pay off your own assets, to just pay for your rent so you don't have to actually pay rent. But there's always trade-offs, right? You might have to deal with tenants. You might have to deal with roommates. You might have to deal with finding deals and negotiating deals in that belly-to-belly selling situation. It's a lot of work any way you go about it, but the truth of the matter is it is a proven way to grow wealth. When I was growing up, I grew up in kind of a poor family. And one of the things I asked myself when I left my home state and I flew the nest and I was going to college, I was like, what did other families do that my family didn't do, right? There's always wealthy. I grew up kind of surrounded by wealthy families in Silicon Valley, and my family was kind of working class poor. And I was like, what did other families do? And I came up with two answers. Number one was they owned businesses. Number two was they owned real estate. My parents did neither. My parents bought their first house in like 2004, I believe. So all growing up in the 80s and 90s, my parents were renters, and I know how much money they paid to landlords. So those were the two things that I decided I would focus my life on, and that was when I was in my early 20s. Here I am in my mid 30s now, and I've flipped 4 or 5 houses, kind of engaged in another, looking to obtain another, and then on the other side, I've got a very successful corporation going at this point, multiple different brands under this, and that's my approach to creating wealth. So this is not just theory, this is stuff that I'm doing. I did all of my real estate flipping with zero of my money involved, no capital whatsoever. I did the work. I found the deals, I negotiated the deals. In one of them, I was actually scraping tile and moving sheetrock and tearing down and demoing bathrooms and helping rebuild bathrooms with the general contractors that came in. Usually when you apply your own efforts, you can kind of save a little cash here and there. Painting is a relatively easy thing to do. Removing carpet, gutting houses. I'm really good at the demolition side of things. So I really applied my skill, and sometimes my skill was just righty and lefty, and that was all I had, right? And that was one other way I was able to add value to the lives of those real estate investors. But again, I think you might notice a pattern here when I talk about selling services and SEO services to local businesses, or whether I'm talking about real estate investing. I got out from behind my computer. I went out and met people who were in the industry, who were doing things, who were taking action. I shook their hands. I asked them if I could buy them lunch, buy them dinner, buy them coffee, if I could just be around them, if I could just ask questions, if I could just learn a little bit. And so many of these real estate investors that I found, man, they're in their 60s or 70s or 80s. They don't need money anymore. Like they're good. Their cash flow is sorted. They got enough rental properties. Their asset situation's fine. They're flipping a house because they like the art of the deal. They're engaged. They love doing deals. Like you'll find that in the real estate investing world. And they love that there was this young, enthusiastic person who's like, I'm going to figure this stuff out, and can I buy you lunch? And they were so willing to sit down. Sometimes I had to buy them a meal, 20, 30 bucks, right? Sometimes I just had to buy them coffee, and they were so willing to share their experiences because not that many people are bold enough to just show up and start asking questions. And I kept showing up, and then I was willing to do the work. I was willing to write the offers. Just like with the kind of selling services, I just showed up to business owners and I asked questions, and I tried to offer little helpful tidbits to them where I could. I would offer to buy them coffee to learn more about their business, their customers, and how it works, to see if I could help them grow their reach and grow their business using Google or social media or whatever it was. And people were very receptive because I always came from a standpoint of like, I'm excited, I'm motivated, I'm trying to figure this out, I'm trying to help, and people love to kind of be around people who are fired up and excited and motivated. So I hope this has been helpful. Again, if you haven't commented yet, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you want more, if you want me to deep dive on how to find, there's other ways you can find deals. I didn't tell you the second way. All right, one last thing. The county courthouse. So when someone's going into foreclosure, there's a document filed called the lis pendens filing. Lis pendens is the name. It's technically like a lawsuit. It's a legal document that the bank files that says we are effectively suing this homeowner because they have not paid us their mortgage, right? So this is when someone's in default. It's not in foreclosure yet, though. The lis pendens filing will take usually about 4 weeks to 6 weeks to get all the way to foreclosure. But that gets filed at the county courthouse, and you can go down generally to your county courthouse, and you can go into the county clerk and say, I would like to review all of the lis pendens filings for the last week. And they'll look at you and be like, You serious? And you're like, yep, I'd like to see them all. And they'll hand you a stack of folders, and you can literally go in, you open it up, and they're just legal documents. And it says, you know, Bank of America is filing a list pendens on homeowner A. It'll have their name, it'll have their contact information, it's all public record, and it'll have the address of the property. And you go pull all of that data, and then you go start to do your due diligence. You drive by it, you look at it. How much is this property worth? How much do they owe? All those numbers are on there. And what I would do, that was one of my other jobs, I would go to the county courthouse multiple times per week. I would pull all the list pendens filing. All the other people there are real estate investors, or at least people selling information to real estate investors. And I would then literally take all of the data I could get. I would go mail all the owners like, hey, I noticed you had a house in this neighborhood. I'm looking for a house in that neighborhood. I'd be interested in buying. And sometimes the owner got your piece of letter the day or two after they got another notice that they're in default. And they're like, man, I'm gonna call this guy because I need to get out of this house because I'm in a bad situation. And they're essentially facing bankruptcy unless you come and work a deal. And that deal can be a short sell where you negotiate with the bank if they're upside down, or you can simply purchase the property for them, paying off their mortgage. They walk away with no money. You get control of the property theoretically at a discounted price, leaving you some kind of meat on the bone, if you will, so you could then go sell that deal to another investor who's going to execute the flip, or you can move in and make it a 2-year flip on your own, or you can bring in a team and a bunch of cash and actually execute the flip yourself and then resell it on the retail market as a beautiful new property in that neighborhood. You always got to work with the numbers. It's great to find real estate professionals, even realtors who can give you comps and give you kind of understanding of the values of the neighborhood, but we do all have a lot of great tools at our disposal through the Zillows and the Redfins and those kinds of apps as well. That's it for this video. That's my kind of quick, dirty brain dump download of real estate investing. I love this world. I'm going to be living in a house pretty much for the rest of my life, so I might as well play the house game in a way that gets me the maximum benefit for the leverage available to me through the way that this system works. You do have that opportunity for you as well. Find a strategy that works for you, that you're comfortable with, that kind of fits into your lifestyle, right? Don't try to bring your kids and your wife into a roommate situation. That's definitely not a recipe for success, but maybe a triplex, the right triplex in a neighborhood would be perfect for you guys. You can improve the exterior of the property, you can improve the grounds, the curb appeal, all the while living in it, making a bit of cash flow, selling it for more on the way out, and you can create this nest egg that you roll from property to property. Every 2 years, it can be tax-free, property to property. That nest egg will grow, my friend, and then what you do with it from there is up to you. Keep rolling it through the real estate, buy more rentals, do what you do, invest it in 401ks, invest it in IRAs, invest it in index funds if you so choose. I can go deeper on the investing world, but I wanted to give you at least a broad overview of everything I know about real estate investing. This wasn't everything I know, but it was a pretty good survey of the land. Any questions, hit me in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you want more of these kinds of videos as well, because I'm pretty tactical on the internet marketing stuff, but it's also how do we grow our wealth is something that I've thought long and hard about for over 15 years, and I've read dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of books on the subjects, and I'm happy to take my time out of my day to share with you to help you grow your family's financial situation, to help you grow your wealth so you can ultimately create the life of your dreams. That is my deepest and most sincere goal, is to help you achieve the life of your dreams. That would mean a lot to me. And until we connect again on the next video, I thank you for your time, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Be well.